I like a large caramel macchiato with an extra shot and whipped cream, please.
Coming up.
Wait, hold on. How much is that?
$4.85.
Okay, better drop the extra shot. What does that make it?
$4.20.
Better make it a small. What does that make it?
$3.30.
Better drop the whipped cream. What does that make it?
Less calories.
Oh my God, and he flew all the way to New York to tell me that. That's so romantic.
It's beautiful, really.
You're not even allowed to leave the state.
What's that now?
It's the Al Travis Show. We're lucky to have our next guest, Senator Susan Kent. You wanted to talk about the big, beautiful bill, and I'm not really have an issue with that, except I don't think it's going to look anything like it looks right now, and I don't know that as a fine conservative that I am, it's going to get done by Independence Day anyway. So next week when we find out what it comes to, can we talk about it then? I have an issue with it, but is that all right?
Well, I think everybody needs to be paying attention, and I would especially think that people who are in the districts of Congress people, Fischbach, Stauber, Emmer, and Finstad ought to be paying attention and on the phone and understanding really what's going on here.
Well, go ahead again. I'm not telling people to ignore it. I'm just saying that even what came out of the Senate now is so much of them went into the Senate. Now it goes back here, and it is going to change 10 times over. We're going to find so much. I'm not thrilled with it. I guess I'm not thrilled with it.
I think the big chance to make a meaningful difference in a way that I think you and I both could agree on some of this stuff was in the Senate, and because the Republicans have already taken the bad votes, and so it's once you've done that, it's not as hard to take the next bad vote. And they are facing a very real deadline. I think it really is, and and these things are always hard to nail down because it's a market thing, but they've got to raise the debt ceiling to fund this massive deficit that they're getting ready to enact.
There's a lot of this I'm not thrilled with in the least. The raising the deficit is interesting because doing it the last time when it was Democrats in charge was not an issue. We do it this time. My point is I'm against it. Stop it altogether. If you can't live within your means, stop. So I'm not a deficit increasing guy.
It's Republicans who are the ones who have historically thrown themselves over the sword about raising the damn debt ceiling and shut the government over.
But we should. And we should.
Well,
There's no reason in the world we should be spending $3-4 trillion more than we've got. But
now they're going to rush this through in order to raise the debt.
See, the problem is this is no rush. And this is what bothered me. This guy got in January. We had the House, the Senate, and the rest. When we watched you guys on the state level, when you had all three legs of this stool, right, there's nothing you all didn't get passed. You did what you said. You got what you wanted. You did your thing. God bless you. We're there now, and now we decided we can't take this one thing at a time. You know what you could have done? Said no debt ceiling. We're going to do this. You know what? All the doji crap we found, we're cutting it all. We're going to have one bill that gets rid of that. No, we start piecemealing this thing together so people can hide a little something here and a little something there, and all of a sudden we're $3 trillion over. What we should have done is said, no, we're going to get back to the regular business. There are 12 bills, all 12. This is what's ticking conservative guys off. Did it take too long? This should have gotten done in bits, and it should have been done by now in part. So anyway, I don't want to.
But that's the point. This thing stinks to high heaven for all sorts of important reasons, and really badly for rural communities. What this is going to do to hospitals and nursing homes, and seniors in nursing homes, and people who are
let's see what they get through. I don't. Disagree.
It's going to be but they're rushing it through because the more time people have to pay attention to it, the more they hate it. And already the polling is terrible, even with Republicans over this bill, but they're doing it because of the big tax cuts for the super rich people. That's what they're doing.
This is super. The polling thing is interesting in that you can say even conservatives, yes, I want more cuts. I want less in this bill. I want it done now, and I want it slice everything out that Doge found.
Right.
You guys would hate the bill they come up for me to make me happy, but beyond that, I want to get to Minnesota.
I don't think that's true. I really think that if there was an honest debate about what we needed to do to lower the deficit and also not close our rural hospitals and push our seniors out of nursing homes because they have no place else to go and they've just lost all their Medicaid funding, which pays for, I think.
See, the Medicaid thing, and I get that, and everybody's got their talking points. The Medicaid thing, the 10 million people they're talking about losing Medicaid, 10 million of those, I think 5 million are people of working age that don't go get a job. I'm okay with them going and finding it. The other 5 are actually illegal immigrants who are here taking Medicaid.
No,
yes.
that is all a big window dressing to try to put lipstick on this pig. How many metaphors can I mix in this one? But the point is, this Medicaid cut is actually going to affect people who really need it, people who have, or maybe kids who need that for their health care, a lot of people with very real disabilities. And I'm not kidding. It's like 2/3 of seniors in nursing homes are on Medicaid. They're in there Medicaid pays for them to be in a nursing home. If that money goes away, where are they going? And then it's the ripple effects. But hang on a second. It's the ripple effects of all of that ought to be capturing more attention too, because nursing homes in rural communities is often one of the largest employers. So if you lose that employer, that has big ripple effects in that count.
And
right?
let's just say, well, why in the world then did not the folks in Minnesota, when Minnesota was doing its budget of $66 billion, fought to keep the $220 million to keep illegal aliens on Medicare or Minnesota Care, and took that money out of health care for senior citizens? They took that money. It's the exact same amount. They took exactly that same amount of money out of senior citizens care and put it in there. It's like we get to decide what we want to prioritize.
Nobody wants to have this discussion, but the reason, aside from a moral belief that people who should have health care if they are sick, right? That people who are here, and we can talk about how corporate America has fully embraced illegal immigration so it can have them for their workforce. So that's why they're here, and they've been here often for decades. I just heard a story of somebody yesterday.
I saw that.
But no, this is somebody who hadn't made the news. This is someone I know through somebody else. But anyway, that when people get sick, they end up in the emergency room and they have to be treated anyway. And that is not the fiscally responsible way to provide health care.
But you know what is? You know what is? The fiscally responsible health care is to have them get in their home countries where they belong. Because then why? Because you got here. Now I get to either pay your insurance costs, and because that's cheaper, or I can pay for your emergency room. Those are the two options. That's not a two option.
This argument needed to have been had when big corporations were welcoming people in here for cheap labor. And Completely. They've been here, and they've been, and that's the other thing nobody wants to talk about. Now that we're
I'm for it.
Now that we're pushing everybody out of the country, the people who work in our agriculture industry, the people who work in our construction industry, all of these things are going to drive costs up for everybody else in terms of food and housing.
You know what? That is the exact same argument they used to have 150 years ago. We can't free the slaves. Who's going to pick the cotton? It's the exact same argument. I'm all about it. Here's my point. If Farmer Brown's got too many people hired illegally on and his prices have to go up to pay Americans and prices go up, that's the price of doing business. You'll either get machines to do it, or you'll pay that price, and
look,
people will make more. The bottom of the labor market will make more because they have to get them in there. I'm okay with that.
I am all for serious reform to our immigration system, and saying that from this moment on, everybody comes in legally or not at all. Right? And
why this moment? Why the 4 years ago for 10 million you threw in? Now it's okay? The last 10 mil?
No, everybody has, well, I will say there's a few very small number of people, but I think most everybody, 95% of this country believes that we should have secure borders and a rational, enforced immigration system. But that system has to have
When did that start? With Donald Trump? Because it didn't happen for the last 4 years.
It's been going on for decades, and Republicans have used this.
So you're happy with Trump? Trump has finally put a stop to it. We had zero people across the border last week.
This is not the way to solve it. He's not trying to solve it, and he's not doing it in a way that legitimately addresses the issue. Let's remember, this is the guy. There was a bipartisan bill that would have improved matters just a year ago, and Donald Trump was the guy on the phone to all the Republicans undermining the work of the great conservative Jim Langford from Oklahoma.
Oh, you can call him great because he did it your way.
This bill. No, we did it Jim Langford's way. This is the thing that everybody was saying. Democrats hate this bill, but they know it's a way to get something done, so they're willing to deal with it, right? But Donald Trump got on the phone and told all the Republicans in Congress, do not support this compromise bill because I need it as a campaign issue in November.
And he was absolutely right. Nothing had to be passed. Everything stopped with the presidential edicts that he put out. The bill you're talking about said 5,000 illegals a day could come in before we turn the border off. Why would 5,000 a day, which is 1 million people a year, why is that okay to come in illegal before we turn the faucet off? He turned it off with no work.
We haven't had the resources to appropriately manage the issue. We needed the resources, and those have to be appropriated.
The issue is managed. It's closed.
No, hang on. Let me finish. We need the resources. We need the courts. We need the human people to monitor the system and to manage it, right? And we haven't had that because that costs money, and that requires Congress to appropriate that. And a huge part of this problem is that for decades, Republicans have refused to allocate the funds needed to do it because they didn't want to fix the problem. They wanted to campaign on it.
But you say you were fixing a problem when you allow 5,000 people a day in illegal. How is that a fix? You're putting a Band-Aid on a lipstick on a pig, Band-Aid on something else. I don't remember what off the top of my head. I got to go to break. I know you're fired up. We'll talk on the other side.
I want to talk some more about the bill.
Well, I want to see how it's going to affect Minnesota. We could talk this. We'll have it next week. Fine. I want to talk about how that affects Minnesota and what happens if we need a special session. That's where I'm going. I'm only 15 minutes into it. We've got her, Senator Susan Kenton. God love her. Back after this.
Dust from livestock buildings can be harmful to your animals and to you. Coughing animals can lead to costly vet visits and other serious health problems. Now there's an environmentally safe solution for your dust problems. It's called DustLock. DustLock can control the dust all summer long with just one application. Protect your animals and your health with DustLock. Learn more at dustlock.com.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
The Al Travis Show, the last place you can go and hear all sides. Respectful, thoughtful, and grateful.
And we've got her, Senator Susan Kenton. We'll put a pin in this. Okay.
Wait. Before we segue to another thing, I just have to, for the last thing you said before we went into that break was, when Al says God love her, that is when I am saying, bless your heart.
Fair. No, okay. And you know, it's weird because on radio to say stuff like that, it people get annoyed. I said a prayer for the Hoffmans.
Yes.
It gets weird, and I don't mean it. That it's who I am. God bless you. I love the conversation. I want to get you with a glass of wine, and I want to have a cocktail and have this conversation. It would be fun. I enjoy you, and I don't want anyone listening to the show saying, "Oh, Al, you can't let her talk." I love it.
I'm just saying it's not the religious reference in this case, but it's the God lover. bless her heart,
Yeah, it's true. And I mean it in all sincerity. I love the fact you and I could have that conversation.
Yes.
And that I have no doubt you'll be back next week and we'll do it again. So that's back to putting
please.
a pin in it.
Yeah.
Because I think we'll know more about what's in it a week from now. Because
we know a lot about what's in it, and people need to pay attention. And
we'll see if it stays. Yes.
And call their representatives. Yes.
I'm only 20 minutes behind trying to get the topic in. Here's my topic for you because you know Minnesota's and what's going on. Let's say all the things we are reading about goes south for Minnesota in the big, beautiful bill. And there's 400 million here and 200 million there. So let's just say it's $1 billion. And I'm just throwing that This is what we're going to be short now because of
I bet it's more than that. It's more than that. I mean, the estimates are that this bill will cost 300,000 Minnesotans their health care.
Okay. Well,
and so that, I mean, I don't know how at the state level we make that up without.
But I'm not sure you do. Here's my point: is that's not the budget. If we're money short, now you have a balanced budget as of 3 weeks ago, which took 3 extra weeks to get, and we call it balanced. If $1 billion comes out of that, and however you want to frame that, do they have to come back and redo that? Can they say we have a $3 billion, rainy day fund and wait till January?
Right.
What is your goal? You were running things for a while. What would you do?
Okay. And let me just, for
reference,
the sake of thinking these, I was going to say, I want to make sure I don't use naughty words. There are a number of factors in here too, right? So we know there's a special election in Speaker Hortman's district. And we know my senator in Woodbury is going on trial in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So, there's some things out there that are complicating factors, right? And so that affects timing, right? And technically, I think the way this works, and when I served for 10 years, we always had surpluses. Let me just say that. So I didn't have to do this, but
they give you a badge for that.
No,
surplus badge. Right.
Yeah,
they should.
Right. They should. Yes. But so I didn't have to have, because the way it works is, we do the budget for 2 years. And so that first year of the biennium is setting the budget, and then you see what happens. And if you're falling short in the next year, you have to go in and rebalance the budget in that next session is the way that works. So in theory, they don't have to come back in a special session to do it, but there may be good reasons that they need to or want to, to prevent bad things happening. So it just depends on the way it's structured. And that was a lot of the way we had to do things with federal funds during COVID too.
So what do you think could happen? So in 6 months' time, of course, you'd obviously want the Hortman seat special election redone. You don't know what in the world's going to go on Woodbury. I get that. But even beyond that, right now it seems that there aren't a lot of people diving into these open seats. We don't know if the governor's going to run the governorship. We don't know. All this stuff is open because of all that's gone on. And if you throw in a special election too and a special session, we may not see who's in the race until we get to January. And
well, I mean, we will know. I'm pretty sure we'll know all the statewides.
When do you think the governor decides? This has to push him back a month. I know.
Well, I mean, he has said July, but that was obviously before they were killed. And so, that could affect his timing, obviously.
Well, timing in his thoughts.
Yes.
Now you're to the point you literally have to think as any statewide official, is this worth the risk?
I mean, he has good security, but that's the thing that everybody needs to think about in this climate. And I think I mentioned this, a conversation that Melissa and Walls and I had when I was leader, and protests were happening at DFL House members' homes. Yeah. And we had a conversation. We have one of the largest legislatures in the country, which I know that makes some people crazy. On the other hand, it makes our districts really small. And so people have the opportunity to really get to know their representatives if they're paying attention. So there's a real benefit to that. But it would be very expensive to provide that kind of security for 201.
No, I don't disagree. But my point is, even if he knew what he was going to do beforehand, let's get through session and then we'll. Right. And how many other people were saying the same thing? I was saying on the Republican side because nobody's diving in. Right. Let's wait till the session is over. Everyone's reconsidering, even if they were going to jump in. You have to. It's human nature.
There's an element of that, I'm sure. But I also know Tim Walz well enough to know that if he is going to decide he's not going to seek a third term, he needs to make that decision soon. And so because it puts a lot in a bad spot, if he doesn't. So, it's just my heart goes out to him on so many levels.
Yeah.
I know this has personally been really hard, and he has had to lead the investigation and lead all of this.
You could see it in his heart at the funeral. You know, I have no dislike for the man, but you could tell where his heart was during that funeral, and you do have to feel sorry for him. A friend of his passed. For nothing more than that, every Republican's got to say, okay, back off. We're out of time. Appreciated today's show. It was really a lot of fun. I appreciate you very, very much, and I appreciate you coming on the program. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good.
Remember, stick that pin if there's some big, beautiful thing. We'll discuss next week. It'll be a lot of fun.
The big billionaires bill.
Is that the BBB? Oh, I kind of like that.
The big billionaires
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue